All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really powerful framework that's changing how we all think about AI. It's called LlamaIndex, and it's all about giving your AI its own personal, private library to learn from. So let's just start with one big question that gets right to the heart of this. What if your AI didn't just know about random things on the internet, but it actually knew everything about your work, your projects, your company's private files? Just think about that for a second. And, this is the core problem we're all facing. These amazing models like GPT-4, they're trained on the public internet, a gigantic ocean of data. But when it comes to your private specific information, your company's database, your personal notes, they're totally clueless. And that is where LlamaIndex comes in. The best way to think about it isn't just as some technical bridge. No, it's more like a highly skilled specialist librarian that you hire for your AI. It's a framework designed specifically to connect those big, powerful language models to your unique custom data. So how does LlamaIndex actually pull this off? How does it build that bridge to your private data? Let's break it down. I mean, the kinds of things you can build with this are pretty incredible. We're talking about chatbots that can give you accurate answers from your own instruction manuals, or custom AI assistants that actually understand your team's workflow, or even an internal search engine that can find that one needle in a haystack across thousands of your company's documents. Okay, so to really get how this works, we've got to look under the hood at its data pipeline. This whole process has a name you might have heard: Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG. It's the secret sauce for turning a messy pile of raw files into smart, relevant answers. Now, I know this diagram might look a little intimidating at first glance, but stick with me. We're going to walk through this data factory one step at a time, and you'll see it's actually a super logical flow all the way from your messy files to a genuinely useful AI. Everything kicks off with ingestion. LlamaIndex has these tools called data connectors, and you can basically throw any kind of data at them: PDFs, websites, you name it. They grab all the text and pack it into a nice, clean document object. And they also keep track of important stuff, like the original file name, so you always know where your info came from. Okay, this next part is a really, really core idea in LlamaIndex: the node. See, instead of treating your whole document as one giant wall of text, the framework chops it up into smaller, more focused pieces called nodes. But, and this is key, these nodes are all connected to each other, creating a true network of knowledge. So here's the difference, right? A document is the whole file, all by itself, but a node is a small, focused chunk that's linked to other related chunks. This structure is what gives the AI a much richer, much more contextual way to understand your information. It's not just one big book, it's a library of interconnected ideas. And this is where the AI magic really happens. Each one of those little text nodes gets turned into a long list of numbers. It's called an embedding. That string of numbers is basically a mathematical fingerprint of the node's meaning. All of these number fingerprints are then stored in a special kind of database called a vector index, which is just a super fast way to search for similar concepts. We just walk through a pipeline that seems pretty involved, right? You've got connectors, nodes, embeddings. But the real genius of LlamaIndex is how it hides all of that heavy lifting from you. In practice, that whole complex process we just saw boils down to these 5 simple ideas. You load your data, you build the index, you create a way to ask questions, you ask your question, and you get a smart answer. LlamaIndex makes this entire workflow incredibly straightforward. Okay, let's make this totally concrete. Imagine you feed the entire U.S. Constitution as a PDF into LlamaIndex. You can then just go ahead and ask a super specific question like this, targeting a very precise piece of information inside that file. So what's happening behind the scenes? Well, the query engine isn't just guessing based on its internet training. No way. It's zipping through that vector index, finding the most relevant nodes from the Constitution itself, and then handing that specific context to the LLM along with your question. The AI isn't hallucinating. It's reading your document. And here's the kicker.
That entire 5-step pipeline we just saw, from loading a PDF to getting a smart, context-aware answer, a developer can actually implement that in about, 5 lines of code. That's it. This radical simplification is what makes the technology such a game changer. It's just so accessible.
But that 5-liner, that's really just the beginning. So let's look at a couple of power-ups for when you need to build more serious, real-world applications. For instance, the standard data readers are great for simple text. But what happens when you have a really messy PDF? The ones with complex tables, charts, weird layouts. For that, there's a specialized service called LlamaParse. It's a much more sophisticated tool that can intelligently figure out all that complex structure, giving you way cleaner data to start with. And this is absolutely critical for any real app. You don't want to have to reprocess all your documents every single time you start your program, right? Of course not. LlamaIndex lets you build your index once, save it, and then just load it back up instantly whenever you need it. This saves a huge amount of time and money. So let's just recap the big ideas here. LlamaIndex is that essential bridge connecting powerful AIs to your private data. It transforms your raw files into a sophisticated network of knowledge using those interconnected nodes. It massively simplifies the otherwise complex RAG pipeline, and ultimately it empowers you to build highly specialized AI assistants that actually know what they're talking about. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Now that you know this is possible, what private, specialized knowledge would you give your AI? What amazing problems could you solve if your AI had its very own private library? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.